I'm 33 years old and wondering why I keep getting stuck in situationships. Every guy I date seems interested at first, but never takes it further. Always end up in the gray zone, where we are more than friends, but not official. Then they leave, and within months they are engaged to someone else. Been telling myself for years that men are just scared of commitment, that they see my success and independence and feel threatened by it. My friends agree and say the right man will appreciate what I bring eventually. But eventually is taking a really long time and I am running out of patience. At a coworker's birthday party last weekend at some bar downtown, standing near the back getting a drink when I overhear a group of guys talking. They are laughing about one of their friends who just got engaged recently. One guy asks how he knew she was the one after only 8 months together. The friend who got engaged is there and he starts explaining his thought process. Says he knew pretty quickly that she was different from the others he dated. Says he used to date women who were not wife material and wasted a lot of time. Says once he figured out what wife material actually meant, everything changed for him. I know I should walk away and not eavesdrop on this conversation at all. But something makes me stay and listen because I need to understand this. Need to understand why men commit to some women so fast but string me along. So I pretend to look at my phone while listening to every word they say. One of the guys asks him to explain what wife material actually means to him. He says he made a list after his last situationship ended, and everything clicked finally. Says he realized he kept picking women with the same red flags over and over again. Once he identified those red flags, he could spot wife material much easier. The guys all lean in and ask him to share the list with all of them. He laughs and says, "Okay, but this stays between us and is just my opinion." Starts listing the things that made him realize a woman was not wife material. And as he talks, I feel my stomach dropping with every single word he says. First thing he says is, she talks badly about men constantly as a whole group. Makes jokes about how men are trash and acts like all guys are the same. If she sees men as the enemy, she will eventually see me as the enemy too. Cannot build a life with someone who has contempt for my entire gender. I think about my social media and how many posts I have shared about men being trash. Think about my conversations with friends where we bond over hating on men together. Think about how I talk to guys I am dating with suspicion from the very beginning. Realize I definitely do this. And it is literally the first thing on his list. Second thing he says is, she has no close female friendships that are healthy. Either she has no friends, or all her friendships are full of drama and competition. Women who cannot maintain friendships with other women have issues they have not resolved. If she treats other women poorly, she will eventually treat me poorly too, somehow. Think about my friend group and how much drama there is between us constantly. Think about how we compete over everything and talk behind each other's backs. Think about how many female friendships I have lost over petty disagreements and jealousy. Realize this one fits me too. And now I am feeling really uncomfortable listening. Third thing he says is she keeps a scorecard and never lets anything go ever. Every mistake becomes ammunition. She brings up in future arguments months later. Forgiveness is not in her vocabulary, and resentment builds until it explodes eventually. Cannot build a life with someone who holds grudges and keeps track of every wrong. Think about my last relationship and how I brought up stuff from month 1 and month 10. Think about how I keep mental lists of everything guys do wrong to use later. Think about how I struggled to let things go even when they apologize sincerely. Realize I am 3 for 3 on his list, and I have not even heard the rest yet. Fourth thing he says is she needs constant validation and external approval. Always cannot feel good about herself without attention from other people, especially men. Posts constantly on social media, fishing for compliments, and gets upset without likes. Her self-worth is dependent on others, which means I become responsible for her mood. Think about how much time I spend on social media curating my image for validation. Think about how my mood changes based on how many likes my posts get. Think about how I need guys to constantly tell me I am pretty or I spiral. Realize I definitely need more external validation than I want to admit, honestly. Fifth thing he says is she is always the victim in every story she tells. Every ex was crazy and every job was toxic, and nothing is ever her fault. If she is the common denominator in all her problems, she cannot see her patterns. Cannot build with someone who refuses to take accountability for anything ever. Think about how I describe all my exes as trash and every breakup as his fault. Think about how I tell stories where I am always the innocent one being wronged. Think about how I have never once admitted that maybe I contributed to problems. Realize I do this constantly and never even questioned if I was the problem. Sixth thing he says is she treats service workers and strangers like they are beneath her. Rude to waiters and condescending to people she thinks are lower status than her. If she treats strangers poorly, she will treat me poorly once the honeymoon phase ends. How someone treats people who can do nothing for them shows their true character. Think about how I act at restaurants when service is slow, orders are wrong. Think about how I talk to customer service people when I am frustrated about something. Think about the times guys have seen me be rude and got quiet afterwards. Realize they were probably taking mental notes just like this guy did. Seventh thing he says is she is obsessed with what she deserves but never what she offers. Always talking about her standards and requirements and what a man must bring. Never once considers what she brings to the table beyond her job and appearance. Relationships are about mutual value exchange, and she only thinks about receiving. Think about my dating profile and how it lists everything I require from a man. Think about how I never thought about what I actually offer beyond my career. Think about how conversations with my friends are always about what men should do for us. Realize I have never once seriously asked myself what I bring to a relationship. Eighth thing he says is she cannot let a man lead anything without taking over control. Has to be in charge of every decision and makes him feel incompetent when he tries. Undermines him in public and corrects him in front of friends and family constantly. Needs a partner, not a project, and cannot build with someone who emasculates me. Think about how I always take control of plans and dismiss my partner's suggestions. Think about how I correct guys in front of people when they get small details wrong. Think about the times I have made men feel stupid for trying to take initiative. Realize I do this because I do not trust men, but it pushes them all away. Ninth thing he says is, she prioritizes her career and friends over the relationship always. Cancels plans for work constantly and puts her friends' opinions above her partner's. Makes him feel like he is last on her priority list, and she will fit him in if convenient. Wants someone who makes space for a relationship, not someone who squeezes me in sometimes. Think about how many dates I have canceled because something came up at work. Think about how I tell my friends everything about my relationships and take their advice. Think about how guys have told me they feel unimportant, and I dismiss their concerns. Realize I have made every man I dated feel like an afterthought in my busy life. 10th thing he says is she does not add peace to his life, only stress and chaos. Every day is a new problem or argument or issue that needs to be addressed immediately. Being with her feels like a second job instead of a partnership that makes life better. Wife material is someone who makes home feel like a refuge, not another battlefield daily. Think about how much drama I bring to relationships and how often we argue about things. Think about how guys have told me I am exhausting and I thought they were just weak. Think about how being with me probably does feel like a job with no days off ever. Realize I add chaos to relationships, not peace, and that is why nobody stays. The guy finishes his list and his friends are all nodding and agreeing with everything. One says he wishes someone had told him this years ago before he wasted time. Another says he is going to scream for these things going forward, starting immediately. They toast to the engaged friend and congratulate him for finally figuring it out. I stand there frozen with my drink, feeling like I just got publicly executed somehow. He was not talking about me specifically, but he might as well have been talking directly. Every single thing on that list fits me perfectly, and I cannot deny any of them. I am the woman men date but never commit to, and now I finally understand why. Leave the party early without saying goodbye to anyone because I cannot socialize right now. Drive home in silence, going over the list in my head again and again. 10 things that make a woman not wife material. And I am all 10 of them somehow. No wonder I keep ending up in situationships and watching men marry other women. Get home and sit on my couch, staring at the wall for almost an hour, thinking every guy who left me was not the problem. I was the problem the whole time. They were not scared of commitment. They just were not going to commit to me specifically. They went and found women who did not have my red flags and committed to them fast. Think about my ex Derek, who I dated for a year before he ended things between us. I called him a commitment phobe, but he got engaged 6 months after we broke up. His fiancée was everything I am not, and I used to make fun of her for it. She was soft and sweet and supportive, and I called her a pick-me behind her back. Think about my ex Terrence, who said he was not ready for anything serious with me. He is married now with a baby, and his wife seems like the opposite of me completely. She lets him lead and supports his dreams and does not compete with him constantly. I thought she was settling, but maybe she just understood something I did not understand. Think about all the guys who started hot and then slowly pulled away over time. They got to know me and realized I was all 10 things on that list, probably. They did not ghost because they were scared. They ghosted because they were smart. They recognized what that guy at the party learned, and they got out before wasting more time. Spend the next few days in a depression spiral, just processing everything I heard. Call in sick to work because I cannot function normally after what I learned. Keep going over the list and examining my past relationships for evidence of each item. Find countless examples of me doing every single thing he described perfectly. Finally, call my mom because I need to talk to someone who actually loves me. Tell her what I overheard at the party and how it described me exactly. Expect her to tell me those men were wrong and I am perfect as I am. Instead, she gets quiet for a long moment, and that silence tells me everything. She says, "Baby, I have been wanting to talk to you about some of this for years." Says she has watched me push away good men and blame them for leaving me. Says she raised me to be strong and independent, but maybe overcorrected somewhere. Says she forgot to teach me that strength can be soft and independence can include partnership. She says she sees so much of herself in me, and that is what scares her most. Says she was like me in her 20s, and it almost cost her marriage to my father. Says she had to learn to let go of control and let him be a man in the relationship. Says the best thing she ever did was stop competing with him and start being a team. Ask her why she never told me any of this before now, when I needed to hear it. She says because every time she tried, I got defensive and accused her of being old-fashioned. Says I would shut down and say she did not understand modern dating and relationships. Says she stopped trying because I was not ready to hear it until I hit this wall. She is right because I did dismiss her every time she tried to say something. Thought she was just from a different generation and did not understand how things work. Now, turns out she understood perfectly, and I was the one who did not understand anything. Was so committed to being right that I could not see how wrong I actually was. Ask her what I should do now that I finally see what I have been doing wrong. She says, start by forgiving yourself because you did not know what you did not know. Then start working on each of those things one at a time with real effort. It will not happen overnight, but you can become someone different if you want. Spend the next few months actually working on myself in ways I never have before. Start therapy to understand why I need so much control and external validation. Learn that it comes from childhood insecurity and watching my parents almost divorce. Been trying to protect myself from abandonment by pushing people away first. Work on being less critical and more appreciative of the men I interact with. Catch myself when I'm about to make a negative comment about men as a group. Notice how often I do it and how it poisons my mindset before I even give guys a chance. Start consciously looking for good things in men instead of assuming the worst always. Work on my friendships with women and cutting out the toxic competitive dynamics. Distance myself from friends who only bond over drama and hating on men together. Find women who are in happy relationships and start learning from how they think. Realize my friend group was keeping me stuck by validating all my worst patterns. Practice letting go of grudges and not keeping score of every little mistake. When someone apologizes, I actually forgive them instead of saving it for later ammunition. Notice how much lighter I feel when I am not carrying resentment constantly. Notice how much better my interactions are when people feel actually forgiven. Work on being less controlling and letting other people lead sometimes without taking over. Practice not correcting people when they get small things wrong because it does not matter. Bite my tongue when I want to take over a plan and let someone else handle it. Realize that giving up some control does not mean being weak. It means trusting others. Work on adding peace to my life instead of chaos and drama. Constantly stop engaging in arguments on social media and negativity spirals with my friends. Create calm in my home and my mind so I can create calm in a relationship. Realize being peaceful is actually harder than being chaotic, but so much better. Start dating again about 6 months into my self-improvement journey. Finally, meet a guy named Calvin through a hiking group I joined to meet new people. He is kind and calm, and I notice my old instincts wanting to take over immediately. Want to test him and judge him and find his flaws before he can disappoint me. But I catch myself and choose differently than I would have before this journey. Let him plan our first date without suggesting changes or taking over control. Laugh at his jokes, even when they are not that funny, and make him feel good. Ask him questions about his life and actually listen instead of waiting to talk about myself. He comments on our third date that I am different from women he has dated before. Says I seem genuinely happy to be with him instead of evaluating him constantly. Says he feels relaxed around me instead of like he is being interviewed for a job. Says he was not sure about dating apps, but I am making him reconsider everything. That feedback tells me the work I have been doing is actually showing in real life. The guy at the party said, "Wife material is someone who makes home feel like a refuge." I am trying to become that person instead of the chaos bringer I used to be. And apparently, men can feel the difference when they are with someone who adds peace. 6 months into dating Calvin, and things are going better than any relationship I have ever had. Not because he is perfect, but because I am not sabotaging things like I used to. I let him lead sometimes and support him instead of competing with him constantly. I add peace to his life, and he tells me all the time how much he appreciates it. He meets my mom, and she pulls me aside later with tears in her eyes. Honestly says she can see how much I have changed and how happy I seem with him. Says Calvin looks at me the way my dad looked at her before things got hard. Says she is proud of me for doing the work even though it was painful. A year later, Calvin proposes and I say yes without any hesitation at all. Not because I lowered my standards, but because I raised my self-awareness. Finally, I became someone worthy of commitment instead of demanding commitment I did not earn. I became wife material by fixing the 10 things that were making me undateable before. Think back to that night at the party when I overheard that conversation accidentally. I could have dismissed it as misogyny and gone back to blaming men for everything wrong. Could have told myself those guys were just insecure and I was perfect as I was. Instead, I listened and let it break me so I could put myself back together better. That random guy's list saved my life even though he does not know I exist. He was just talking to his friends about what he learned from his own dating experience. Had no idea some woman was listening and having her entire worldview destroyed quietly. His honest conversation with his boys gave me the roadmap I needed to change everything. Sometimes you have to hear the hard truth about yourself from strangers who have no agenda. Sometimes the things that hurt the most are the things you most need to hear clearly. Sometimes being destroyed by the truth is the only way to build yourself into something better. And sometimes overhearing what men really think can change the entire direction of your life. Tell my younger cousin, who is 26, about everything I learned from this experience. She is in her difficult phase right now, pushing away good guys and blaming them for leaving. I share the 10 things with her, and she gets defensive just like I would have before. Says, I am being a pick-me and pandering to male preferences instead of being authentic. Let her have her reaction because I know she is not ready to hear this yet. She will either figure it out on her own or waste more years learning the hard way. All I can do is plant the seed and hope it grows before it is too late. Some lessons you just have to learn yourself, no matter how many people try to warn you. Look at my engagement ring sometimes and think about who I used to be before that party. The woman who blamed men for everything and wondered why nobody wanted to commit to her. The woman who was all 10 things on that list and had no idea she was the problem. That woman would not recognize who I am now. And honestly, I am grateful for that. I became wife material not by finding the right man, but by becoming the right woman first. Fix the things that were pushing men away instead of demanding they accept my chaos. Learn that being peaceful and supportive is not weakness. It is what partnerships need. Learn that the right man was never going to come until I became someone worth committing to. If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.